Hello, viewers. Welcome to ETCSO Decrypt. As part of the larger summit, we have this exciting fireside chat on aligning cybersecurity with the new normal. As we all realize, the COVID 19 pandemic has had dramatic effects on operating models and modes of working, technology choices, and tech tool utilization, risk control environment, risk monitoring capabilities, and more. Combined with rogue actors, which have amplified the cyber risk exposure of organizations, we see clear changes and increases in attack surfaces, emergence of new threat vectors, increased cybercriminal activity, and increasing human resource and communication challenges, all of which make this already complex risk domain into an even bigger challenge. To throw more light on the areas that cybersecurity, risk, and technology professionals should focus on in the next 6 to 18 months, and clear actions that any organization needs to consider moving forward, we have with us two leading industry experts. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Harmeen Mehta, Global CIO and Head Cloud and Security Business, Bharti Airtel, and Mr. Vinay Tiwari, CISO, RBL Bank. Welcome, Ms. Mehta. Welcome, Mr. Tiwari.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll set the ball rolling with Ms. Mehta. Ma'am, Airtel has over 300 million customers. I mean, that's a huge customer base that could make any board jittery with respect to cybersecurity. How do you allay the fears of Airtel's board about the security of the organization and its customers? Your thoughts on this, ma'am?
So Yashwinder, as you can imagine, I think it's a lot of moral responsibility more than just what you expect from laws and everything else that comes on organizations like us. And I think it's something that's really a part of our DNA, so we take very, very seriously. Um, you know, uh, I'm sure you won't be surprised that almost every audit that we do every quarter, both internal and external, we cover kind of data privacy and data access. And uh, every few months, we look at even who has access within the company. And one of the things I take a lot of pride in is that our company from the very onset has always been very, very responsible and mindful of the information that we have from our customers. In fact, I would say as compared to many of the companies which have such large records of data and such deep understanding of customers, Airtel as a company has never ever under any circumstances shared anything with anybody ever of our customers, as well as always been overprotective of it. And at the same time, the kind of technology investment that has gone into this domain over the last several years is unparalleled. And I think the reason for that is because the profession that we are in the technology profession, and in particular the cybersecurity aspect of it as well, for my cybersec teams, it's a never-ending job. I mean, you try to be as much ahead of the malicious and rogue elements that are out there, but at the same time, they are also equally creative. So on one hand, you're trying to be ahead of them. On the other hand, you're making sure you're at least catching up, and that's a constant investment. I think we've gone are those days where anybody and any company can think that we've kind of done it and this is it, and there is no more we can do. Every day we find new things we can do, and it's a really constant investment of both time, money, resources, as well as a lot of intellectual thinking as well. And that's what we really focus on. We do that for ourselves, we do that for a lot of our customers. And one of the philosophies that we've got, because of the scale and scope of what a telecom company does and what Airtel does, we've invested so much in it that every capability we build in the cybersec space is fully open to all our customers. We don't differentiate between that because we've already done it. So we might as well share everything that we've got. Plus, being the data pipe on which even malicious attacks run and go through in any company, whether it's a bank or it's a manufacturing company, etc. The strengthening that we are doing on our network layer itself to protect companies against that's really another advantage that companies like Airtel, when they get into cyber security practices, can offer over anybody else who just wake up and start a cybersec company.
Sure, sure. Great stuff there from you, ma'am. And like you said, cybersecurity is a continuous journey. Great. I'll come to Mr. Tiwari now. So cybersecurity threats have intensified in both complexity and frequency than ever before. As an enterprise cybersecurity leader from a bank, how are you giving confidence to your company's top management about the security of your organization and your customers?
When it comes to cybersecurity, again, so everyone will agree. So there is no zero risk or something like that. When we talk about confidence, while presenting these details to the board or to the management, we do share the key risk indicators which are there and what is the current maturity status around these, around each risk indicator which we identified, be it on endpoint compliance perspective, or your patch management perspective, or even DLP policies and other security policies which are implemented. So what is in current state, what is in threat scenario, security posture of the organization. For each and every stage, there will be a multiple level of maturity, which needs to be, which we regularly actually share with the management and the top management. When it comes to confidence, that I personally believe so that there should not be a false confidence that can be, that should be created, that we will not never be attacked or there will not be any attempt. We are fully secure. So that is false confidence. We regularly carry out cyber maturity assessments of our processes through third party. Okay, third party audits happens around the cyber security. We regularly monitor our risk indicators on these pieces. Actually, so there are a lot of investment from the management as well in terms of understanding what kind of risk people are having. So as you might be aware, there was some attempt which was in news yesterday for one of the pharma companies, but still management were concerned. So why it is happening? So what is the root cause? They are directly connecting and taking an update. So that's where we come into picture. So these are the controls, these are the preventive measures which we already have, and we are monitoring it. We are enhance the monitoring, be it due to geopolitical situation, be it due to your the threat perceptions, or due to work from home scenarios. There are a lot of ways through which the confidence can be given to the management. When it comes to it's more of an assurance, and that assurance actually lies till the moment you're speaking. You're not sure what is going to happen next few minutes. For that, you may be having a confidence, your team may be having a confidence, but giving a false confidence to the management sometimes actually overkills. So that's where we go by the reality. So whatever real picture is there for the organization in the end, business and top management has to take a call around the risk appetite of the bank, which we have identified. We are tracking it, where we reach, where are reds, where are greens, what kind of actions are required, those are tracked. Not only that, it's getting regularly discussed in multiple forums, be it your IT strategy committee of the board, or maybe information security steering committee, or your operation risk committees and the compliance committees which are there. As in governance risk indicators, actually RBI has also given certain mandates and guidelines which are actually helping us, providing a level of confidence to the management. Even from bank perspective, even if you're tracking the regulatory compliance, you are actually indirectly driving the security posture of your organization, which directly or indirectly gives the confidence to the management.
Sure.
And people do take these things on priority nowadays.
Sure.
So that's why.
Coming back to Harmeen ma'am, every business today is undertaking the digital journey, the digital transformation journey. And I believe that's a double-edged sword. While
Yep.
digital lends several advantages to the business, it also has serious implications on security.
Yeah.
What do you feel has been the impact of digital on businesses and the role of the CISO?
See, I think two, three things. One, first and foremost that comes to my mind is just look what has happened in just the last, 4 to 6 months. The unusual situation that we find all companies find themselves in, and our customers find themselves in as well. That's led to a lot of digital growth. At the same time, it also led to a digital growth in an era where everybody is kind of working from home for extended periods of time. What companies have had to do, and especially large companies as well, is there are lots of access that you restrict in a corporate environment when you're working inside your buildings, that you will have certain access to certain systems, certain part of the data centers only from your offices, certain types of data, etc., so that it's never leaving the so-called premise of the organization. But a lot of those things, many of them in the rush of enabling businesses, many things got relaxed when companies started preparing their employees who had never actually previously worked from home to even do their jobs from home. And in that is where kind of the um, you know, the malicious elements around the world really thought as the biggest opportunity for them to actually go and hack into any of these companies, etc. Phishing attacks all around the world have gone up by more than 250, 300% during just the last few months. Ransomware attacks have more than doubled all around the world. And one of the reasons that first time we are seeing is normally phishing attacks happen on your company domain names because that's what's used for access. But they're not happening like that anymore. The sophistication of those attacks has also gone up. People are pretending to be from HR and saying, because to enable some work from home policy for you, I need your access credentials because I need to change some of your settings. For a user who's normally not got that and they get an email and it or a message nicely saying that it's from HR, they're very, very vulnerable and susceptible to actually fall trap to this. And all that person could be looking for is a email password or a login for a, I don't know, a CRM account or something like that, which gives them a very good door into the entire customer database of companies, etc. So the level of sophistication, the kind of ways of these attacks happening, and we've all seen series over Netflix, etc., on how there are villages and societies that are coming up making businesses around all of this. I think we're living that reality. That is not a myth. That's not a TV program. That is what is actually happening in our country. As sad as it is, but for corporates, we just need to protect against those. And for us, our job is to protect ourselves and also protect other corporates that we work with and provide cybersecurity services to protect them against all of that as well. We have to think smart, out of the box. And in fact, talking about thinking out of the box, a lot of these guys, they live out of the box. So you have to really enhance your thinking. And you'll see, if I look at my cybersec team, one of the things we did many years ago is invest in hiring some of the best ethical hackers on our payroll as well, because they are the ones who give us much more insight than normal people with normal thinking would even think of. Look at the cryptocurrency scenario. Cryptocurrency threat has gone up 4,000% in the last year. I mean, unprecedented. Nobody even thought that this would be this market would see such a big surge in attacks, etc. as well. And I think that's where the roles of the CISO are definitely changing, and what I push my CISO to do as well. I think the job of the CISO previously was just thinking about protecting the company and thinking about cyber attacks and how, what technology to invest in. I think now it is much more about understanding that what part of business is to protect in. What are you trying to protect? What are the fraud scenarios that are coming up? How do you protect against those as well? And I'm finding our, kind of cyber defense policy has also changed. It has now become into different parts. Data is the new currency. So our data leak protection, you had to massively step up a game on that. And Airtel is known for having a zero tolerance policy on that. We actually let go of whether it's an associate or an employee. If you're involved in any kind of data leak, zero tolerance policy, your relationship is severed with the organization. That has had a massive impact on the thinking, behavior, and responsibility level of every single person that works inside Airtel, because now they understand what their responsibility is. So you have to democratize, your cyber strategy. It cannot be just something that's done by 4 or 5 people or 100 people in a company. It has to be democratized. Every employee needs to have an understanding.
Sure.
We, do the amount of training that needs to be done in actually making people aware has definitely gone up. I would say one of the biggest things that we are seeing is drive the this agenda on behalf of other CIOs and other companies. I'm seeing ourselves actually going and talking to their boards and their CEOs a lot more and helping them craft this agenda and present it in the right manner. The fourth thing that I'm seeing also is that I expect out of the CISOs is to equally think about from not just protecting the company, but also protecting the customers. That's a very different lens. Very often you'll see fraud scenarios around how a company can protect itself from fraud, where your customers are doing some fraud and you're protecting yourself against. Our job is very much on also going and seeing how we can prevent fraud from happening to our customers as well. Very, very different strategy, needs very different deep learning, a lot of artificial intelligence that goes into that. And I think the last message actually drives from that, is saying, think about this. If you think about this customer first and business first, the entire approach that you take to cybersec will be very, very different. We cannot afford to run cybersec today, which requires too much of human intervention. And that's one of the reasons why over the last several months and last year, we invested in a world-class SOC, which is what we open up to our customers as well, where more than 70-75% of our entire cyber defense is run by AI and run by machine learning and does not require any human intervention, because that is the quickest way to either predict or react for both. You cannot afford for, cyber attacks happen in the middle of the night, for somebody to be woken up and for them to kind of brush their teeth and rub their eyes and log into a system, and by the time it could be too little too late. And this is where the use of AI in cybersec and the way it has increased over the last several months and couple of years, I think is very, very important, and that's where I see most of our investment has gone as well.
Sure, sure, ma'am. Mr. Tiwari, do you echo Harmeen ma'am's sentiments there? When she talks about this acceleration of digital, pushing CISOs to think out of the box, have a zero tolerant policy. Your thoughts on this?
I completely agree with her. So whatever she said, each word. So in fact, the digital transformation, if you see, so it's becoming cognitive, right? So it's driven mainly by AI, ease of use, customer, right? It's visible everywhere, and as part of those transformation, actually the success around this lies with the how you're securing the digital core, and the role of CISO becomes very important over there. How you have embedded your security practices during SDLC cycle itself, or during design phase of the business itself. So now role of an CISO has more of a strategic role. So it has become how you can create a business value by being part of the business and maybe the product itself. So by designing the product, not only in terms of a SOC monitoring perspective or cyber resiliency perspective, but designing and architecting the product itself, right? And in terms of again providing these services, when you're part of it, actually digital transformation is again driven by multiple factors, right? It has more to do with a more hassle-free or engaging customer experience, acquisition of new customers, or for example KYC you talk about, right? So that's where role of CISO and how you're protecting those information or securing those information becomes very important. It has become more strategic role to the business. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Harmeen ma'am, how are you accelerating digital in Airtel in your organization? And what's your recommendation to your customers who are looking to embark on this journey?
So we're accelerating it massively, but I think more than what we have accelerated last 6 months, I think COVID has accelerated digital far more for all of us, and so have our customers. We've moved leaps and bounds on our adoption of all our digital assets around the country and around our base. And in fact, I would say that at its peak over the last few months, we've seen more than 70-75% of our entire business be digital. And even with the country opening up, that has stabilized to well over 60-65%. So way higher than when it was before the lockdown period. But I think what we did was we took a slightly different approach. And this is where, Yashwinder, I have a slightly different take. If you look at India, India is a country. It's first of all, it's one country which has many countries in it, different cultures, different languages. But more importantly, 1.3 billion Indians, about a billion mobile connections. And every single company, whether it's any bank or it's a telco or it is, maybe not the telco, but at least the digital side of the telco, or it is OTT players, entertainment platforms, music apps, e-commerce, everybody is appealing to a pool of about 350, maybe 400 million smartphone users in the country. But there is an entire billion users in India outside of that, out of which 400, 500 million of them still are on feature phones. And we are so far the digital strategy that all these companies, whether it's Facebook or WhatsApp or Amazon or Airtel or any one of them, the strategy we've applied is when these guys come on smartphones, that's when they get digitized. And I think this entire unusual circumstance of the last few months have completely changed our thinking. I think we cannot just wait for these 400, 500 million people and say they will come to us. We have to find a way of how to get to them. And I think that's where we've really doubled down on our investment in actually Vernac Voice, because we moved a lot of our apps into 11 different language, full Vernac, and we found that there also the adoption wasn't as high as I thought it would be, because a lot of this strata of these 600 million people that I'm talking about, they're not as comfortable as even reading and interacting digitally with the app as they are talking, because that's what they do for a living. They know how to do that, and that's make it much more easier to them. And it's more of a fear of getting it wrong is what their digital shyness comes from. So I think there are many other different things that companies like us need to do to really push the boundaries to get to these people rather than just waiting for them to come to us. So I think that's definitely been one more than I would say deep insight. And if you look at it, think about it in a different way. Every time I fly, I haven't flown for months now, but when I used to in those good old days, every time we landed in Mumbai, and I've got a few photographs that I've taken from the plane, is you see the tallest towers and the highest cost real estate in the country in Mumbai, right adjacent to Dharavi, which is one of the largest slums in the world. But that is India. We are a country of contradictions. We have 1% of Indians that have 58% of the country's wealth. And the remaining 99%, live on the remaining, 40%. But more importantly, during this period, we saw over 30 million people who were migrants got displaced because they had to go back to their hometowns, etc., and either not able to earn their livelihoods. Over 200, 300 million people in the first quarter of the financial year reported significant drop in earnings, because if they were either daily laborers or on any kind of daily wages, or even SMBs got massively hit. I mean, that itself is going to give birth to a different thinking of how businesses would be run at a lower cost, how we can reduce our capex investment, how can we move, whether we're moving to the cloud, open up digital alternatives, how do we embrace the new ways of working, new ways of living, new ways of entertaining. A home became an office, home, theater, everything. I think our lives have changed, and I think some of this change is going to stay forever. And within that is the whole digital strategy of every company is going to emerge from that and is emerging from that.
Sure. Great thoughts there, ma'am. Mr. Tiwari, Harmeen ma'am talked a bit about AI and ML, their importance going forward. What do you think? What role could these disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, play in complementing existing human resources in enhancing the cybersecurity stance of companies?
So it's going to be there actually. So it's not only helping or complementing the current human resource skill sets. Actually, it's able to do certain tasks which are actually not that easy to carry out, right? There are a lot of, as part of InfoSec per se, even if I talk about only monitoring, there are a lot of data or analytics which comes into the picture. So that's where this ML and AI kind of interface helps us. You cannot go on each and every URL just to identify where are the phishing sites which are lying, right? So that's where your AI-based component will be useful. It will not only carry out the assessments on those URLs basis, your logo, image. It may have certain own algorithm or scripts around it which will automatically identify it, right? Getting deeper insights into threat, I think AI and ML will help us, because generating that skill sets on human, because there are certain human behaviors, they will go for tea, lunch. Even that can happen during that time. If most of the attacks, if you see for last 6 to 10 years, it's happening on Friday evening. Why? Just because Saturday, Sunday is on leave, people go early, and there is a certain level of less monitoring which is happening on those days, right? So enhancing those monitorings via systems and utilizing these services will be helpful, be it on a Uber perspective. Not only that, even you can get certain risk prioritization. Risk prioritization is nowadays, it's a dynamic thing, right? It won't be same for every moment. So manually tracking that or maintaining it in an Excel sheet with respect to you, the vulnerabilities which are existing in your environment, it becomes difficult. So that's where these kind of tools and services will be helpful. Apart from that, even authentication and authorization piece, right? So that's where carrying out risk-based authentication or risk-based assessments may be a step down or step up authentication. It will be very helpful. So wherein if you are able to identify the users on the endpoints, implementing zero trust framework, AI and ML are going to be key over there. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Coming back to Harmeen, ma'am, you already spoke about how Airtel is protecting its customers. What is Airtel's readiness to support its enterprise customers on cybersecurity? Would you like to add, something more to that? You spoke about the SOC that you have.
Sure. So we now have a very, very comprehensive, a complete cybersecurity practice and a business that we run for our customers. We actually announced, we've been running it for a while, but we did a full commercial launch. We announced, earlier in September, and I think for us, we've really built a name for ourselves, especially in the financial services industry, be it insurance or banks in M&D and in almost every segment across. And this has been led by this entire AI-led SOC, or our Security Intelligence Center, as we call it. And the entire premise of the Intelligence Center is about really using the power of technology to allow companies to get ahead in this space. And more importantly, what we've also done is that when you are a client, it doesn't matter what service you've taken from us. The entire part of the Secure Intelligence Center, we extend that to brand protection. So we actually work on your behalf to see that who else could be abusing your brand, taking money from your customers, revenue that you're losing out, as well as ruining your reputation, maligning you, in a wrong manner. It's not about grievance, but actually, corporate threats or anything that comes on social media, etc. So proper brand protection. Besides, of course, the whole cyber defense strategy, which the Secure Intelligence Center provides as well. But more importantly, doing this in such a high end technology perspective, and AI and ML level, rather than how traditionally it is done in India by most companies, by just throwing a lot of tools and a lot of people at it. So we are the antichrist of that completely. And I think that's how we've run it for Airtel, and hence excelled at that. And that's what we want to bring for our customers. And we're fortunate enough every year to be recognized for some of our cybersecurity practices, and we want to continue to work on it. And like I said in the beginning of this session, this job is never done. So it's a constant investment that we do. But we cover the whole portfolio, and all the expertise that we've got on any kind of OEMs, products, etc. That's also available to all our customers. And it's one of our fastest growing businesses and doing really, really well. So we hope to continue to work and serve our customers and protect the company as well.
Sure, sure. Moving forward, Mr. Tiwari, how do you visualize the threat landscape evolving? How do you see the role of the CISO changing in the post-pandemic era? And how can CISOs move beyond cybersecurity and add to business growth in the new environment?
As I mentioned earlier, so role of CISO is already actually changing in terms of strategy, and also earlier only IT used to be there. I remember the days when only firewalls, IPS, and certain technologies were handled, and CISOs were part of IT. Later on, they became part of risk, wherein reviewing the risk of the systems and all. So now it's easily seen that it's getting integrated with the business as well, because business has been actually utilizing the IT services on a very high scale. The threat landscape around, as you may be aware, so these are basic things which are there for last 3 years. The frequency has increased in terms of attack, be it phishing, be it ransomware attacks, right? Or even with respect to identity impersonation and with respect to data leakages or data breaches which are happening nowadays. Every day you will hear some billion lines of data has been available on the dark web and all. So we are seeing new kind of threats which will be coming. At the same time, post pandemic, the work from home scenario has changed a lot of things. So with respect to, as I was talking about the zero trust implementation around that, so if you want to allow certain BYODs or bring your own device kind of thing, so it will carry its own risk of privacy, risk of, again, data leakages. So it will become more of an internal threat as well. So that's where UBA or user behavior kind of solution will come into picture, right? So I'm expecting there will be major attacks which will be happening, or targeted attacks on specific sectors rather than only individuals. You must have heard the recent attack on even the namkeen and mithai walas, right? So that was like, now they can go anywhere. So just for sake of money. So ransomware, it's going to be there. So as I always say, on ecosystem perspective, there are a lot of improvements which are required. I think there is a lot of focus from regulators as well as the government, as well as a lot of collaboration which is happening. But when it comes to with respect to threat, I think the time has come wherein even at national level, government will have to come up with a policy what kind of system and services are allowed in your environment. So when you're purchasing something, be it COTS application or OEM application, you're blindly trusting based on the legal guidelines which are there, and there is no central body for legal engagements at this moment. So it's going to be a major challenge around those as well. So you must have observed, once this BYOD or work from home was initiated, there were zero-day vulnerabilities. Those were released for VDIs, for VPN solutions, the interfaces which were already there live basis, which we were allowing certain accesses. So it had become, if your practices are weak around that, then it's going to be a key challenge. So that's where I think as a nation, as a team, we will have to come up with certain policies around those as well. And phishing is going to be there. User awareness or customer awareness is going to be key. So there will be a lot of focus around those as well, and a lot of training that will be required. Even if there are many advertisements and even media reports are happening, but every day, if you go through the newspapers and all, you will see a lot of frauds which are still happening. So there will be focus on frauds as well. Yeah.
Right. The final question before we wrap up the session: what message or best practices would you like to share with CISOs to help them better prepare for future threats?
I would say think like a criminal, but act like a custodian for both your company as well as your customers. Your own moral standards have to be higher than anybody else in the entire organization. And I think part of your job is to make sure that every single employee also lives up to that. But your job is also to protect yourself and the company and your customers against the worst. So good luck.
So that's all we have time for. The gist of this very enlightening session is that the role of cybersecurity leaders has expanded tremendously owing to drastic operational changes, rise in remote working practices, and changes in regulation and legislation, thereby presenting CISOs with the prospect of taking thought leadership within their company beyond planning and implementing technology controls. As security becomes foundational to everything we do, security leaders can rise to the occasion, taking proactive decisions in tandem with business leaders to recognize and respond to both challenges and opportunities that will form the basis of their success beyond COVID-19. With this, I would like to thank Ms. Mehta and Mr. Tiwari for their wonderful insights. Thank you very much, viewers, for being with us. Keep watching ET CISO Decrypt. Thank you.
Thanks, Yashwant. Thanks.
Thanks.
World is getting more and more digital with connected humans and connected devices. This convergence of devices, data and internet has allowed enterprises to stay competitive, enable faster turnarounds, reduce costs and manage huge data. But with change come challenges. Risks in the form of cyber threats, malware and ransomware attacks. Does it worry you that your brand might not be protected against advanced threats? Or that your data can leak anytime, leaving you with a damaged reputation? The only way to have peace of mind is by making sure your security is in the hands of a trusted expert. Airtel has been at the forefront of security for over 2 decades. We secure one of world's largest network, over 400 million customers, million enterprises. Security is in our DNA. Introducing Airtel Secure, the cybersecurity suite of services from Airtel Business, powered by robust NOC/SOC infrastructure, AI-driven intelligent inputs, world-class cybersecurity partnerships, and our ability to discover threats earlier than anyone. We bring the most impenetrable cybersecurity solutions to your enterprise. We secure you.